This tutorial is going to talk about how to make a spoon for our kitchen scene. Now I start with something similar to the bowl. I start with a sphere that I cut in half along the faces. So I'm going to go back to my 4 view again. I can press F to zoom in on whatever I have selected in the current view that I'm in. I'm going to right click and choose face and delete all of those top faces again. And then I'm going to extrude it. But first I want to do some stuff here to make this a little more spoon shaped. So first off, I'm just going to select all of it in object mode and use the scale tool to scale it in a little bit to make it more shallow, to make it more narrow this way. I'm just trying to get a spoon look here at the start. And to help with this, because I just can't keep the idea of a spoon in my head, I am looking at reference materials. I just type spoon into Google, and wow, there's a lot of spoons in Google. So I can see that there's a kind of a curve here to the bowl of the spoon that leads up into the handle. So I'm going to try to replicate that using some of the techniques that we've talked about here. But I want to start with something pretty basic. It's also a little bit wider than it is here, so I'm going to go back into my soft select. I double click on my move tool, turn on soft select, and now I can choose different portions of it to deal with. So I'm gonna, and yours can look like whatever you want, whatever you feel the most comfortable with. If you want to keep it like this, that's fine. If you want to try some extra challenge, try to mix it up a little bit. So I'm going to choose these back to, whoops, let me try it again. Hold down shift and select both of those. And I'm going to try just taking those two, and with the soft select, I'm going to try, let me close my attribute editor so it's a little bit bigger here. I'm going to just try rotating that and see what happens. So just by rotating those two and having the soft select on, I'm getting much more of a curve that I'm looking for there. So that's a lot closer to something that I think will actually work. Leave my soft select open here. Maybe I'll try to make these edges a little bit wider too. So I'm going to choose these two on this side. So I'll shift click those two, and then the same ones on this side I'll select, and we'll see how that goes. I actually don't know what this will do. And then I'll try scaling them bigger. Whoops, maybe I've got too much of a soft select now. Let's go down to 1. And I'll try scaling those. So that's moving these and the ones around it, but leaving these ends, the top and the bottom, relatively the same. So I'm getting a little bit more of a spoon look there. So I'm just going to keep messing around with that, and if it doesn't work, you can always restart again, or if you're just happy with the bowl shape, whatever you decide. But once I've gotten the shape that I'm looking for, I need to, once again, do an extrude on the entire object and increase the thickness. Now, spoons are really thin, so I probably want less than 0.1. Let's try 0.05. That looks pretty solid. If I wanted to see what it looks like smoothed, I can press 3. That looks pretty good. I'm going to go back to 1 now. Now I need to create the handle. And I'm going to do that by taking a couple of these polygons in the back. So I'm going to choose face. Oh, want to turn off my soft select. I don't want to choose multiple faces here. And I might choose either just these two. That's always in the way there. Or maybe even these 4, and I held down shift to select all of them. I think I'm just going to do the 2. Control clicking will unselect a face. And I'm going to extrude those out. Now an extrude takes whatever you have selected and extends out the geometry at whatever is a 90-degree angle basically from the polygon. Because this edge, these 2 edges I've selected are rounded, I'm not sure what's going to happen. I'm going to click extrude, and now I can just grab this tool and drag it out. And I'm getting a handle, but because it's coming out at a kind of a weird thing and making that bigger, that's not a problem. These 2 faces in the front are still selected, so I can still use the move tool to move them. I'm going to get kind of that angle there off of the thing. I can still use the rotate tool to rotate them, and I can use the scale tool to scale them. So to shrink that size back down, I'm just going to scale it along a single axis here to get that look. So before you extrude again, I'm going to extrude multiple times so I can create a curve. I'm just trying to use my move, rotate, and scale tools to get this thing looking like the way I want it to. So I want a curve now, so I've stopped here. I need another set of polygons to be able to create a curve. So I'm going to extrude again, and now I'll pull these ones out, and maybe, whoops. Oh, apparently I'm too weird here on the top, so that isn't going to work anymore really for me. I'm going to try to scale those down, and maybe even rotate them slightly, and then extrude again. I can press 3 to see what that will look like here in a second too. So now I'm going to extrude, and once again it just keeps wanting to get bigger, but I can always fix that because I've already selected those two faces in the front. I'll just scale them a little smaller again. So let's see what that'll look like with 3 smoothed. It's not bad. I'd like to have a little bit more thickness in the back here, so I'm going to go back to 1 and use the edge loop tool to select these edges around the back, and then I'm just going to bevel them. And by doing that, I've increased the geometry available to smooth. So now when I press 3, whoops, wrong button. Now I've got a much squarer edge. And now I have a spoon. And for the materials on the spoon, I'd probably just use the My Material X. I'll show you the one I'll use in a second. I'm going to pause it and rearrange this and resize it. And I realized as I was doing this that I haven't yet finalized the smooth. So I click back on 1, and then I'm going to come here to Mesh and Smooth to smooth that one more time. So I forgot to do that before. So then I'm going to go back to my Hypershade, create another MIA Material X, very useful. This one I'm going to call Spoon so I don't lose track of it, because you can have a bunch of these and then it becomes very confusing, especially on my little screen. And for this one, I'm going to use the Chrome preset, which is a very shiny metal. And then I'll assign that to that. And this is probably going to be a little too shiny. So I like that. I actually like how shiny it is, but if I wanted to turn that down, I could always go into the attributes by double-clicking on it of the spoon, maybe turning down reflectivity or glossiness until I get something a little bit more like what I want. But it's much easier to start from the preset and to change that one than it is to start from scratch with a Lambert or a Phong or a Blinn and start to make what you want. And that looks pretty great. So that's one way to make a spoon in Maya.